Fantasy football fam, what's going on? I'm Mitchell Renz. I'm your host of Fantasy Football AF. And well, guys, it's week one and I am super excited. And I also want to apologize ahead of time. I am feeling a little bit under the weather, but it's not as bad as what the weather is going to be like in the Steelers and Browns game. I got a fun show for you guys on tap today. I got some mailbag questions that you guys submitted yesterday. So if you want your questions on next week's show, all you got to do is subscribe to Chat Sports on YouTube or follow us on Facebook or follow me on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365 and use that hashtag Mitch please. And guess what? Your questions are going to be on the show. I got my stardom sit-ems. And then at the end of the show, I'm literally just going to open this up and reveal all my thoughts to you. Hopefully that's the only thing I reveal to you guys. But that's what I'm going to reveal to you. If you guys have questions, please submit them in the comments below. I already see a bunch of them coming in. Got them from Michael, from Timothy. Guys, I promise you I will get to them. So let's go to my first Mitch Please mailbag. This one is coming in from Steven. And, well, he's got Ricky Seals-Jones or Austin Seferian-Jenkins. And, well, this is a really tough one for me. And if you guys watched my segment that I did earlier this week on FanDuel, the guy that I really like this week is Austin Seferian-Jenkins because, well, I like the matchup against the Giants. And if anybody has watched football the last 3 years, you know how bad the Giants have been against tight ends. Now, Ricky Seals is also one of those sleepers for me, but this is the guy who I'm going to start this week, Austin Seferian-Jenkins week one. So the Giants allowed the second most fantasy points to tight ends in 2017, and last season, 13 touchdowns against the Giants. Now, they have upgraded their offense, or their defense, especially at the linebacker position, but they are dealing with some injuries. And when I'm looking at a tight end like Jenkins, if he can find the end zone, which 13 touchdowns against the Giants in 16 games, the odds are pretty good. So start Austin Seferian-Jenkins over Ricky Seals-Jones. The next one I got coming in, my next Mitch Please, is from YouTube, and it's I'm_C21. So hopefully you're 21, and if you are, DM me at Mitchell Renz 365. I can probably hook you up with some beer from Tavor. So start two, Odell Beckham against Jacksonville, Doug Baldwin, Will Fuller, or Tyreek, or Golden Tate. Wow, that is a mouthful. For me, guys, I understand how good Jacksonville is. I'm not sitting OBJ. OBJ is just way too talented for me, so I'm not going to sit him. And if I got to pick another guy, I'm going to go with Tyreek. And the reason is because I think that Chargers and Chiefs game is going to be higher scoring. Both defenses are banged up a little bit. Eric Berry's out, and then Joey Bosa's not going to be there for the Chargers. I think that game's going to be a little bit higher scoring. And Tyreek Hill's actually he's actually a lot better on the road. Last year, 7 touchdowns, 6 of which came on the road. I'm going with a guy like Tyreek and OBJ. Start two. It's a good question, though. The next one I got coming in is from Alan Lopez on Instagram. And this one's Allen Robinson or Demaryius Thomas. Well, Alan, this is one of those head scratchers for me as well. I'm actually dealing with it in one of my leagues. Think about this. We haven't really seen a lot of Allen Robinson, and we haven't really seen a lot of Demaryius Thomas, so I can understand the confusion, right? So before I give you my answer, which wide receiver will score more fantasy points in week one? I want you guys to type R for Robinson or type T for Thomas. Allen Robinson has only played, 11 snaps this preseason, which he's not been targeted at all. Demaryius, I think, is going to be the better option over a guy like Allen Robinson, who had 1 catch for 17 yards last year. So go with Demaryius Thomas. But if you guys are, I don't know, dealing with something like this in a regular season league, the cool thing that you guys don't have to deal with on FanDuel is you guys don't even have to pick those two guys, because FanDuel is going to let you customize your own team, and you guys are going to be able to compete against people all over the world. Or if you want to compete against me, this is what you got to do. You got to go to FanDuel.com/chatsports. You're going to make a $5 deposit. They're going to give you 20 for free. So math-wise, $25 in your pocket. And if you want to compete against me, because maybe you think that you're smarter than me, I doubt it, get against me, FanDuel.com/chatsports. Okay, next question I got for you guys coming up on Mitch Please mailbag. This is one from Extreme with maybe the creepiest picture I've ever seen. Which quarterback would you pick first? Jared Goff or Tom Brady, based on their wide receivers? I'm going to go Brady. I understand like Brady may fall off at the end of the year, but this is week one for me. So Jared Goff probably has the better wide receiver core, but Tom Brady is the best red zone option in the NFL with Gronk. My roommate Cam thinks Dez is going to go there. I don't think that's going to happen. But don't sleep on a guy like Chris Hogan, who I've already been seeing in the comments is a pretty popular name, and you might see him a little bit later on in my show. But it's Tom Brady for me, Extreme. Speaking of Brady, this one's not from Brady, and he's throwing a little dab, which I appreciate there. What are your thoughts on Marquise Goodwin? So if you watch my show, I love Marquise Goodwin for an entire season. He's one of those guys who I think could absolutely break out. However, for week one, nah. Like, I'm good on Marquise Goodwin, right? So Marquise Goodwin, I understand he's the #1 wide receiver for the 49ers. I understand with Garoppolo, he averaged 5.5 receptions, 77 yards, which over an entire season is 132 targets, 88 catches, and 1,232 yards, right? Those are sick numbers. And sure, he might be fast as hell. But this Minnesota Vikings defense, guys, is no slouch. They were the #1 ranked defense last year. They don't give up a lot of points, especially at home. I believe the most points they gave up at home last year was 24. So for that reason, I'm staying away from Goodwin. But I want to know from you, over or under 77.5 receiving yards for Goodwin in week 1. Type O for over or type U for under. Pretty straightforward, right? Over or under 77.5 yards for Marquise Goodwin in week 1. Guess what? I'm throwing up to you. I'm going under. Okay, next question coming up is from my dude Danny, who hits me up all the time. So shout out to you. His question is, am I crazy for benching Juju because of the weather forecast in Cleveland? Well, Danny, I don't know if you know a lot about me, but my dad may be a weatherman. He's literally, his name in my phone is Doppler. And he called me this morning, not to say good morning or not to say good luck on your show, but to say, hey, it's going to rain. Like straight up Ollie from Family Guy, it's going to rain today in Cleveland. It's going to rain the entire game. Winds 25 to 35 miles an hour. So are you crazy for benching Juju? No, he's not a wide receiver 1 for me. He's not a wide receiver 2 for me. He's actually like a flex maybe play for me. The weather's supposed to be ugly there. Hey, call me crazy. I think the Browns win that game. All right, next question coming up on the Mitch Please mailbag is from Chase. Flex in a standard league, Chris Carson, Adrian Peterson, or Cooper Kupp? Well, I'm definitely not going to go Chris Carson, and I'm definitely not going to go Adrian Peterson, so it looks like I'm going to go with some Cooper Kupp. You might see him a little bit later on my show as well because, well, I like his matchup against the Raiders. The next one coming in, should have known, Braves. What's going on, dude? We surprised that you're actually giving us a question. Hashtag not. Do you think it's worth drafting Carson Wentz? Mitch, please. Bray, of course it's worth drafting Carson Wentz. Like, it's one of those things like quarterback's deep, and I tell you to wait on quarterbacks all the time, Bray, and I appreciate you watching. But yes, I'm still going to take a guy like Wentz, even though I don't know if he's going to come back until October. This guy was an MVP candidate, so is he still worth drafting? Yes, because straight up, if Wentz is on my waiver wire, guess what? I'm putting in my fab, or I'm going to try to slide in there and get a guy like Carson, who I think is pretty good. All right, next one is coming in from Evan Wong. Phenomenal last name. Do I start Kenyon Drake or James Conner? So James Conner is probably the most popular guy who I've heard about the last week. Like, there's nobody probably I've been asked about more, maybe him or Le'Veon. And Kenyon Drake's a guy who I've been trying to stay away from. But in terms of week 1, it's close for me. So before I give you my answer, I want to know from you guys, which running back is going to score more fantasy points in week 1? I want you to type 1 for Kenyon Drake or type 2 for James Conner. Which running back? More fantasy points, week 1, Kenyon Drake or James Conner? I'm going to type 1 because I like Kenyon Drake's matchup against the Titans. The Titans actually have a pretty solid front, but they struggled last year against running backs that could catch. I believe they gave up 99 receptions to running backs out of the backfield. The next one I got for you guys is from my dude Ivan, who submits questions all the time. So Ivan, shout out to you, man. I appreciate it. Do you think Kerryon Johnson has the potential to become the lead running back for the Lions this season? It's a good question. And do I think he has the potential? Sure. The question is he actually going to get the opportunity? So, interesting quote here from Kerryon Johnson's head coach, or offensive coordinator, my mistake. His role is going to be based on his play earlier in the season. So, I guess if he comes out and he balls out, maybe he's going to get more work. And luckily for him, he plays the Jets, who, well, I think they're a suspect team at best. He's a second-round pick, a guy out of Auburn who I really liked. And in this preseason, 15 carries for 68 yards. But really interesting is the 5 receptions for 43 yards. If this is a guy who they're going to use out of the backfield, that's something that I really, really like. So just thinking about that, Kerryon Johnson is a guy who I potentially think could be the best running back for the Lions, but they haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2014 and a guy named Reggie Bush. All right, next question is coming in from my dude Murph. Funchess or Juju? Heard the wins are going to be crazy. Again, a lot of questions about this Cleveland game. And anybody who's submitting questions on YouTube, I promise you I will get to them once I get through this mailbag, once I get through my stardom sit-em. So shout out to Bobby, shout out to Gaikun, whatever the heck that name is. I'm going to get to your guys' questions in a little bit. So Funchess or Juju? Heard the wins are going to be crazy. I'm actually going to lean Funchess here because I think the Steelers and Browns game is going to be a little bit lower scoring. And I'm not crazy about Funchess, but I still think like the better opportunity is for Funchess because Juju, weather not so good. But guys, if you guys don't want to have to deal with tough decisions like that and you don't even want to have to deal with the weather, guess what? I don't even think Mizzen and Maine could screw up my shirt right now, because if I went to the Cleveland Browns game and I just got soaked in water, I'm pretty sure my Mizzen and Maine shirt would just deflect it all and be like, heck no, you're not going to get wet, because these shirts, sweat wicking technology, I think sweat and rain's the same thing, right? And if you guys want one of your own, I want you to do this right now. www.comfortable.af, okay? Mizzen and Maine, comfortable.af, because guess what, guys? These shirts are indeed comfortable as AF, and it's the best damn dress shirt you're ever gonna buy. I promise you. Okay, next question I got coming up on the board is from Noah Allen. If you had to start one of these receivers, who would it be? Corey Davis, Allen Hurns, or Jamison Crowder, or Mike Williams? A lot going on there, but I'm going to go with the guy who I have as a breakout wide receiver this year, and it's Corey Davis. So I like Corey Davis a lot. He was drafted in the first round of 2017, fifth overall pick, and sure, he played only 11 games last year, but he started to come on strong in the playoffs. So Corey Davis is a guy that you should start. I think he could be a breakout wide receiver this year for the Titans. Next question I got coming in is from Reese Lambert. Lamar Miller or James Conner in a standard league? A lot of people might not like my answer here, but I'm going to go Lamar Miller. And the reason why I'm going to go with Lamar Miller is because Lamar Miller was an RB top 10 running back last year with a guy like Deshaun Watson. Weather, again, not so good with James Conner. Lamar Miller, he might not be sexy, but if he gets a lot of work, and that over-under in the Patriots game, according to BetDSI, is at 50.5. That's the highest one of the year. Those guys know what they're talking about, so I'm going to lean with a guy like Lamar Miller. But the show isn't just about me. Which running back's going to score more fantasy points in week 1? Type M for Miller or type C for Conner? I'm throwing up my M, if that's how you do that. I think that's how the kids do it nowadays. Type M for Miller, because that's what I think. Okay, next one's coming in is from Jordan. Wait, what? Mitch, please, with Le'Veon's holdout, how long should I wait to draft him, if at all? So, Jordan, this is a great question. It's one that I've been dealing with a lot, and it's one that I really want to go into, right? So, are you going to buy or are you selling Le'Veon Bell? It's a great question. Currently, he's holding out, and we don't know when that return date is going to be, and it scares a lot of people. I get it. It scares me because guess what? I told y'all to draft him #1 overall. But this guy played in 86% of Pittsburgh snaps last season over the last 2 years, so maybe that's why he's trying to protect himself, because this dude is an absolute cowbell. In FanDuel terms, or in fantasy football terms, he averaged 21.9 fantasy points per game, and which is the most since entering the NFL. Like, this guy's an absolute monster. So buy or sell Le'Veon Bell. Last season, 27 carries, or last season, 2017, sorry. 321 carries, 9 touchdowns. He finished as the RB2 only behind Todd Gurley, but he led the NFL in touches with 406. If somebody right now is saying, hey, I don't want Le'Veon Bell, dude, like, try to buy him, because Le'Veon is one of those guys who, if you can get him for like a Joe Mixon, yeah, I've seen that trade. Take Le'Veon Bell. It might scare you. I'm having my fingers crossed that he's going to be back pretty soon. Also, guys, I'm checking out a lot of these comments here, which I really appreciate, from Bobby. Thank you, Brody. Appreciate it, Curtis. Guys, I'm going to get to all your questions very, very soon. So, before I get into my stardom sit-ems, guys, I want to know from you guys straight up, how many years have you been playing fantasy football? I hear it all the time, and shout out to my family league. We're going on year 13. Year 13, and it's still the same 12 people. So I've been playing fantasy football for 13 years, which is hella crazy to me. So I want to know from you guys, how many years have you been playing fantasy football? Please comment below. I would definitely appreciate that. Bobby, I will get to your question, man. I promise, I promise. So I talked about my mailbags. Now I'm going to get into my second segment here, which is going to be some quarterback week 1 starts, and then I got my week 1 stardoms of the week. Like, I just want to show you guys what I think. And before I get into these, just because I'm saying like this guy's my start of the week doesn't necessarily mean like, hey, start this guy over an absolute stud. You're going to start Aaron Rodgers. You're going to start Todd Gurley. You're going to start all your absolute studs. I get it. I'm not sitting here to tell you. I'm sitting here to tell you, hey, if these guys are like fringe players for you, that's where you're going to start them. Does that make sense? Cool. So here are my QB1 starts of the week, and I got a guy who I think a lot of people are maybe sleeping on a little bit this year. It's Andy Dalton. I like Andy Dalton this week against the Colts. Colts have one of the worst defenses in the league, and then you're looking at a guy like Kirk Cousins. Well, Kirk Cousins has a good matchup, I think, against the 49ers, and even though Cousins has started out slow, this Vikings team is a lot different. Matthew Stafford against the New York Jets, I think, is a matchup that Stafford can definitely take advantage of. But the quarterback that I love the most this week, and he's near and dear to my heart, and he's my QB start of the week, it's Phillip Rivers. So the Chiefs secondary is in absolute shambles. Eric Berry's not going to play. They lost Marcus Peters to free agency. He's been a top 10 quarterback for the last 5 years, and last season on FanDuel, he scored 17.53 points per game. Phillip Rivers has historically struggled against the Chiefs. I get it. But this Chiefs defense isn't exactly the exact same defense that we've seen in the past, right? So I think it's one of those, start a guy like Phillip Rivers. He's right now a QB 8 for me this week. Guys, I need to take a sip. Hang on. Also, love my new coaster, Buzzed AF. It's lit. All right, quarterback start of the week to my QB sit of the week. Do not start Ben Roethlisberger against the Browns. Now, hurricane-like weather conditions. Hurricane might be a little bit strong, but I'm a little bit over-exaggerator. I'm a basic Mitch, I'll be honest. Last season against Cleveland in 2017, Ben Roethlisberger, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. And we all know Ben has a tendency to struggle a little bit on the road. Last season, he only had 12 touchdowns on the road compared to 16 at home. This is a game going to rain a lot. So I want to know from you guys, who wins today? Give me a heart for the Steelers or a thumbs up for the Browns. I'm going to give a thumbs up for the Browns. I think the Browns win, and I think Bud Light releases all their beer. So shout out to the Browns. I'm really hoping for you guys to get a win this week. Okay, went for my QB sit of the week. Here's some other QB ones that you should consider sitting. Eli Manning against the Jags. No thank you. I'm going to pass on that Jaguars defense. Mitchell Trubisky. I wouldn't really trust anybody with the name Mitchell. Jimmy Garoppolo against Minnesota. Absolutely not. Minnesota, the #1 defense last year against quarterbacks. But if you guys are stuck with those QB1s because, well, you guys are in season-long leagues, guess what? You don't have to deal with that on FanDuel because FanDuel is going to allow you to pick whatever quarterback you want. And this week, my quarterbacks that I'm picking on FanDuel, I'm going with a guy like Drew Brees. I'm going with a guy like Phillip Rivers because I love their matchups. And if you guys want to challenge me on FanDuel, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go to FanDuel.com/chatsports, okay? FanDuel.com/chatsports. You're going to put $5 down. You're going to get 20 for free. Then you're going to slide in my DMs at Mitchell Renz 365 and you say, hey, Mitch, bring it on. So, D. Thornton, Daddy Smokes Yams, say primetime. You guys want to challenge me on FanDuel? Get at me at Mitchell Renz 365. Okay, now I'm going to get into my running back start of the week, who, spoiler, I'm playing him a lot this week on FanDuel, and it's a running back named Joe Mixon. So the Bengals upgraded their offensive line this offseason, which is good because I don't know if it could have been much worse, right? Over the last 4 weeks of last season, he averaged 5.0 yards per carry. And the Colts, they may have the worst defense in the NFL. Joe Mixon is a guy who he could be their workhorse. So for that reason, I like Joe Mixon as my RB start of the week. Here's some of my other RB ones that you should start this week. I love Alex Collins against Buffalo. The Bills are not a very good defense, especially against the run in a game that's supposed to be pretty rain heavy. I think the Ravens are really going to concentrate on feeding the rock to Collins, who was top 10 last year in rushing yards per game. Kenyon Drake against the Titans. Titans gave up 99 receptions last year to running back, so I like Drake's opportunity there. And Latavius Murray is a guy, again, who I'm playing a lot in FanDuel. He's going to split the rock a little bit with Dalvin Cook. 49ers gave up a whole bunch of fantasy points last year. I believe they were bottom 10 in fantasy points to running back. So Latavius Murray is a guy who could find the end zone. Okay, my RB sit of the week, and a lot of people might not like this one. It's Alfred Morris, and I'm staying away from Alfred Morris. And spoiler alert, you guys are going to see also, I'm staying away from a lot of 49ers players. So McKinnon's injury opened the door for Morris to be the lead running back. I get it. Morris, though, is going to split time with Matt Breida, especially when the 49ers are down in this game. Minnesota, the #1 defense against running backs in 2017. They allowed only 7 rushing touchdowns all year. And then at home, this defense is so much better and a team that's bringing back all their talent. So please sit Alfred Morris this week. It's week 1. My other RB week 1 sits. I'm sitting Marshawn against the Rams. I think the Rams just have a much better defense. They get in the lead in that game. Chris Carson at Denver. No thank you. The only running back to score a touchdown last year for the Seahawks was J.D. McKissick. And Adrian Peterson against the Cardinals. Nah, he might be looking for that revenge game, but I just think that Washington Redskins team is not very good. Okay, my wide receiver start of the week. Let me take a quick sip here. And guess what? I'm drinking the Chris Hogan Kool-Aid. I saw somebody before comment about Chris Hogan, and guess what? He's my start of the week. Hogan, he's going to see plenty of targets. There's no Julian Edelman. Gronk, like who else are they going to throw to? Sure, James White's an option. A team that's going to throw the ball a ton in this game. The over-under, according to BetDSI, is the highest in week 1 at 50.5. It's a reason why I love a guy like Chris Hogan, who should see plenty of targets. The Texans' defense is very thin at secondary, even though they added a guy like Tyrann Mathieu, but still their weakness is in that secondary. And the Patriots, they're going to expose the weaknesses of teams. So, guys, I want to know, does Chris Hogan catch a touchdown today versus the Texans? I'm starting Chris Hogan on FanDuel, and I really think that he's going to catch a touchdown against the Texans. So, Chris Hogan, touchdown. I want you to type Y for yes or type N for no. Chris Hogan, touchdown today against the Texans. here's some other guys that I like week 1 that I think that you guys should consider starting. Golden Tate against the Jets. The Jets have a weak slot quarterback, so go with a guy like Golden Tate. Emmanuel Sanders against the Seattle Seahawks. This is no longer the Legion of Boom. I think it's more like the Legion of Doom because, well, I think that defense is in for a treat because they are not very good. And Emmanuel Sanders ran 67% of his routes this preseason out of the slot. Case Keenum leaned on a guy like Adam Thielen last year out of the slot. And then Cooper Kupp going up against probably Leon Hall of the Raiders, who's 33 years old. And, well, that's hashtag not young. And I think Cooper Kupp's going to find the end zone this week. Now, I'm going to get into my wide receiver sits. My main guy that I'm sitting, it's Josh Gordon. I'm not starting Josh Gordon again. Weather conditions, not good. I've probably said that 10 times on this show. Do not start Josh Gordon. Hugh Jackson said Gordon's going to be on a pitch count. I used to play baseball. That's not a good thing. This isn't the Little League World Series. He's had only 1 touchdown in his last 10 games, and I don't even know if he's going to start. So, guys, and in terms of Josh Gordon, please don't trust him. Like, I want to stay away from him. I want to stay away from this Steelers-Browns game. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. So please sit Josh Gordon. But I want to know from you guys, please comment below your answers. How many receiving yards for Josh Gordon in week 1? Guy, I'm going to go like 40. I think he's maybe going to have like 3 catches for 40 yards. I'm going to stay away from Josh Gordon. I think he's going to get shut down in this game. Weather, matchup, no good for me. All right, here's some other week 1 sits that you guys, well, should probably put on your bench. Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's a guy that I've been hyping up, but I'm staying away from him against the Rams. Amari is in his recent games has struggled against physical corners, and the Rams have a physical defense. Staying away from Marquise Goodwin against the Vikings, somebody I do not want to touch. And then Kelvin Benjamin, well, I don't think he's really good in general, so the fact that the game is in Baltimore against a good defense, weather conditions not so good, I'm staying away from those week 1 guys. So, if you have all 3 of those wide receivers and you don't want to play any of them, I get it. But guess what? On FanDuel, you don't even have to worry about that because on FanDuel, you can pick any wide receiver that you want. A wide receiver that I absolutely love on FanDuel this week is John Ross. The Colts gave up the most long pass plays of over 20 yards last year to wide receivers. So guess what? I'm playing a guy like John Ross this week on FanDuel. And if you guys want to challenge me on FanDuel, go to FanDuel.com/chatsports. You're going to put down $5. You're going to get 20 for free. And then you're going to slide in my DMs and say, hey, Mitch, I want to challenge you on FanDuel. And then I'm going to say, bring it. So shout out to Bobby. Shout out to Daddy Smokes Yams. You guys want to challenge me on FanDuel? Get at me. Okay, guys. Start sits are done. My mailbag's done. So now you guys comment all your questions, please, below on YouTube, on Facebook. I'm going to do my best to get to them all. So one of these questions that I'm seeing is coming in from Michael. And this is from, he's got a CPA. I don't know if you know this. I got a PhD in fantasy football. That's pretty cool, right? Juju, Rain, or Funchess off my bench in a PPR league. Man, it kills me to sit Juju over Funchess because, well, I don't really like him, but I guess I'm going to go with a guy like Funchess because the Rain, it scares me. Juju is a breakout candidate for me. I do like Juju more season long, way more than I like a guy like Funchess because, well, I think Greg Olsen could take away targets, and I think a guy like Christian McCaffrey could take away targets. So, Funchess over Juju might not be pretty, but I think it's the way to go. And next question is going to be coming in here, and it's looking like it's from D. Thornton Jr. I think that's coming up. Oh, Timothy Ortiz, that's on me. Demaryius Thomas or Chris Hogan in a PPR. I'm going to go with Chris Hogan here because Chris Hogan is a guy who I think is going to see plenty of targets again. And when you're looking at Demaryius, I think Emmanuel Sanders has more fantasy points at the end of the year for the Broncos than a guy like Demaryius because I think Case Keenum is going to lean on the slot role much more than a guy like, I don't know, like whoever the heck their quarterbacks were last year. I can't even think of their names. They were so bad. So I'm going to go with a guy like Chris Hogan who's got Tom Brady thrown to him in a PPR league. Next question I got for you guys coming up on the board here is from D. Thornton Jr. C.J. Anderson or Chris Thompson? Let me take a sip. That's a tough one. That's a tough one for me. So I like Anderson and I like Thompson. I'll say this. If you're in a standard league, I'm going to go Anderson. If you're in a PPR league, I'll go Thompson. If you're in half-point PPR, I'm going to lean Thompson. Not crazy about either one, but I'm going to go Thompson. Okay, the next question I got coming up for you guys here is from Gmen1313. Baldwin, Barber, or Corey Davis at the flex? I'm not going to play Barber because I think the Saints are going to absolutely crush the Buccaneers. Like, absolutely demolish them. So I'm going to stay away from them. Corey Davis is a guy who I said I liked earlier, but I'm still going to start Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin is a guy who's super reliable. I understand he's dealing with a knee injury, but he said he's going to be good to go. He might not be 100%, but against the Broncos, who they don't have as good of a defense, sure, he might get Chris Harris. I'm still going to go with a guy like Baldwin who's super good, who's going to see a bunch of targets because, well, they don't really have many other guys to throw to. So, G-Men 13-13, I'm going to go Baldwin, but that's a really good question. Next one I got for you guys coming up is from Leron GRA. AJ Green or Michael Thomas on FanDuel? Well, great question. This is one, again, that I've been battling. So you got to look at it from both sides of FanDuel, right? Who's going to be the most owned, Michael Thomas or AJ Green? I think Michael Thomas is going to be owned higher. I will say, though, Michael Thomas is my #1 rated wide receiver this week. He's the highest guy, and actually AJ Green's #2. So I like both these guys. But in terms of who's going to be owned higher, I think Michael Thomas is going to be owned higher. So for that reason, I'm going to go with a guy like AJ Green. But if you want to go with like a deeper sleeper, maybe a guy like Ted Ginn, maybe a guy like John Ross on FanDuel. Just saying, those are the guys who are going to help you win big, like a lot of money. So on FanDuel, AJ Green and Michael Thomas. But guys, let me know in the comments, please. I would definitely appreciate that. Jordan, I see your question. It's a good one about Royce Freeman. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, this next one is coming in from Romello, who looks high as hell. Holy shit. And it's funny because it's Blunt or Murray. Phenomenal. Okay, wow. I'm not going to go LeGarrette Blount. I'm sorry. I'm going to go Latavius Murray. I think that's the Murray that you mean. I hope it's not DeMarco, but judging by your picture, maybe it is. But I'm going to go Latavius Murray here because he's a guy who I think can find the end zone against the 49ers, who they're not going to have Reuben Foster, obviously, and they're going to have some banged-up guys in that defense, and I think the Vikings really control this game. I could see Murray getting like 12 carries, maybe 50 yards, and I think he finds the end zone this week. Next question I got for you guys coming up. This one's from Brody. Okay, flex in a standard league. Joe Mixon, James Conner, or Jordan Wilkins. So Jordan Wilkins is a guy who I do like, especially in deeper leagues. The Colts, I think they're going to feed him the ball a little bit. They don't really have much of a choice. That offensive line, though, has not looked very good this preseason, and there's a lot of hype around James Conner. I get it. They're going up against the Browns, and he should see a good amount of work, but I'm going to go Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon's the guy to own in that game for the Bengals. I think they're going to lean on him a lot. Giovanni Bernard's another guy who you shouldn't sleep on. The Colts, though, it's not a very good defense. So I'm going to go I'm going to go Joe Mixon there, Brody. Next one, Bobby. My dude Bobby always commenting. Do I start Alex Collins or Carlos Hyde? Tough one. So Carlos Hyde is probably going to get the rock a bunch in this game because of the weather conditions not being so good. But Alex Collins is one of my RB starts. I think he could be a sneaky RB1 this week against the Buffalo Bills, who, well, they struggled against running backs last year in a game that's going to rain a lot. This is going to be a game where the Ravens are going to dominate the time of possession. They're going to be on the field a lot more. The Bills aren't going to be able to move the ball, and I think they're just really going to lean on Alex Collins, who I believe averaged 64 rushing yards per game last year. So or Carlos Hyde. So I like Alex Collins. He's a guy who I mentioned before earlier, so if you missed the segment, please go back and I want you to look at. But Alex Collins against the Bills, a game where it's going to be a whole bunch. Joe Flacco's actually been playing a lot better because he's got a guy nipping him at the heels, RG3, Lamar Jackson nipping at the heels. So when I look at just how many times like these guys could get this done, a guy like Alex Collins, who you could go back and look at and be like, damn, he had one great week, and I think you could look at him and still say, like, okay, Alex Collins is a guy that I love. Well, I'm going to keep going down here. I'm going to look down and look at some other ones. How many wins, Mitch, for Buffalo? I'm not really crazy about that one, Adam. When I'm looking at this game, I think Buffalo is the worst team in the AFC East. So for that, I'm a little bit worried about that in that regard. So how many wins for Buffalo? I'm probably going to say like 4. Oh, I think an interesting question that I want you guys to comment on. Who's going to have more wins, the Patriots or the rest of the AFC East? Like, that's a legitimate question to me. I still think the rest of the AFC East gets more wins because I think the Patriots end up winning like 12 games. But, like, it's a tough one for me. All right, I'm still looking down here. AJ Green and Antonio Brown on FanDuel have Kamara and Tannehill. This one's from Leon Gray. Ultimately, if you can go with a guy like AJ Green over Antonio Brown, that's probably the route I want to go because, well, I like the weather conditions a lot more in a dome than I do with the Steelers. And then I'm looking at it. Pats win it all, yes. Other questions. Alfredo Sauce or Matt Breida from Quentin Hunter. I'm going to go with Alfred Morris, even though I don't really like either option there, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I have Alfred Morris as my sit of the week, and I also have Matt Breida there as a sit. So I don't really like that too much. Guys, I'm going to keep going through some of these questions here on YouTube. So if you guys have any questions, please, please, please. From Milquim415, PPR Flex, Royce, Josh Gordon, or... Hey guys, we are having, by the way, a little bit of technical difficulties with our graphics. So if you guys can still hear me, that's awesome, but our graphics are a little bit frozen right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to answer your questions on YouTube right now. So I understand graphics are going to stay the same, and once we get that back up and running, we'll get your questions back up on screen. But until then, I'm going to answer questions on YouTube because, again, technical difficulties. Okay, so the one I was answering before, Royce Freeman, Josh Gordon, or... I'm gonna go Royce Freeman. I like Royce Freeman in this matchup, and then we got, do I start Mike Evans or LaShawn McCoy at my flex? I'm probably actually gonna go with Mike Evans here. Mike Evans is the only Buccaneers guy who I actually like in that matchup. Ronald Jones, third string, so not really crazy about him as well. Who else do I have? How do you feel about AP this week? Not crazy about AP. He's one of my sits this week. I would stay away from him. And we got the graphics back up and running. Nice job there, laying behind the scene. Mitch, I'm in a PPR league. Should I play John Ross or Mike Williams? Wow. So I love both of these guys on FanDuel. Both these guys who I think are really sleepy plays. I'm actually going to go with a guy like Mike Williams, though, who I think is going to see more targets than a guy like John Ross. So Mike Williams, I think, could end of the year with maybe like 50 catches, maybe like 7 touchdowns. John Ross, though, is a play for me who's like big play potential. The Colts gave up the most plays of over 20 yards last year. So for that reason, I like a guy like John Ross who could have a bigger week compared to a guy like Mike Williams, who I think could just see more targets. So I'm going to go Mike Williams over a guy like John Ross. And we got the graphics frozen. Again, no big deal, though, because you guys are throwing in hella questions down here on the bottom. So Cam says, Panthers winning this week. What you think, Mitch? Yeah, I got the Panthers winning this week as well. And that question's coming in from Adam. I think the Panthers are going to win this week against the Cowboys. I think the game's going to be close. I will say, if the Cowboys can get out to an early lead, that's when they have the best chance of winning, because then they can lean on a guy like Zeke. But if they get behind, I just don't have the confidence, ultimately, that the Cowboys can keep up with the team like the Panthers, who I think are pretty good. Sure, they're a little bit banged up, and sure, their offensive line's a little suspect, but I just have more faith in a home team like the Panthers. All right, Pittsburgh's defense against the Browns. This one's from Hutchman007. I mean, I think the game's going to be a little bit lower scoring. There's probably going to be some turnovers, but in terms of playing that defense, I think they're right now defense 11, so they're like on the fringe for me in that regard. Killing me, Adam. All right, Corey Davis, Goodwin, Gordon, or Watkins. This one's from The Foo. I'm going to go Corey Davis, and I'm going to go – wow, that's tough. I guess I'm going to go Goodwin and Davis because I don't really know what I have from Watkins yet, so not crazy about either. Who should I start at the Browns? Who's the starter of the Browns for quarterback? It's Tyrod Taylor. But again, I'm staying away from Tyrod. I'm staying away from a lot of these Browns guys. A game that's going to be a bit lower scoring. Christopher Rodriguez. Mitch, please. In a PPR league, Barber, Morris, or Kerryon Johnson? Oh man, dude, you need to get on FanDuel because those are some weak ass running backs. Like, I'm not crazy about any of those options. If I had to pick, though, I guess I'm gonna go with Barber. He's gonna get to work. That's ugly, though. All right, Rams defense or Jags defense. I'm gonna go with the Jaguars defense. That one's from something film. That's a hell of a name. It's a sleeper fantasy player this year. I totally agree, but this week I'm just not gonna start him against the Vikings. Are really good defense. I believe they gave up 24 points last year with the most points they gave up at home. I just don't think the 49ers are going to get it done that week. Okay, next question. Made you think, worst team in the NFL, poor guy. Yep, no, they're definitely pretty bad there. Adam, okay, from Christopher Rodriguez, go get Mike Gillislee or LeGarrette Blount. No, don't get LeGarrette Blount or Mike Gillislee. Both those guys are options that I do not want because both those guys are not reliable picks for me. Guys, please keep sending in those comments below. I greatly appreciate it. I want to apologize for our technical difficulties. We are having some screens lock up on us, which is all good. I also want to apologize for my terrible voice. I sound horrible, and I promise I will be better next week. I'll be drinking beer. We're going to have a good time. And if you guys, anything that you guys want to know from me, please hit me up on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. If I don't get to any of your questions, I will be answering them all season long. I greatly appreciate that. And please subscribe to Chat Sports on YouTube so you know exactly when we go live. And that way you guys can see our questions. And hopefully I help you guys win your first week. I would definitely appreciate that. And hit me up if I do help you guys win. Because, well, fantasy football is an awesome community, and I want to know. So, guys, please keep sending in those questions below. Cam, why you bugging Mitch's CPO? Yeah, Cam's screwing up my computer. That's not the only thing he screws up, though. I think Cam secretly screws up my dating life because I think when Cam's gone, my dating life's a lot better, and I don't understand why. So, if you guys know Cam, I think he's screwing with me. Go Saquon, Giants, 2019 champs. That's fake news. Giants, I think they're going to have a better year, but to say that they're going to win at all, I think is a little bit crazy. Saquon does have the highest odds to win Rookie of the Year on BetDSI, which I see. Personally, for me, if I'm going to bet a guy for Rookie of the Year, it's going to be Sam Darnold on BetDSI because, like, he's the only rookie quarterback starting. So for that reason, like, I like Sam Darnold a lot to be the Rookie of the Year, and he's playing Monday night. Maybe he can get it rolling a little bit. But in terms of what I project for a guy like Saquon, I think he's right now my RB7, right behind a guy like Melvin Gordon. The hamstring injury bothers me a little bit, but it looks like he's going to be all systems go, so like that's good news. Jaguars, though, they do have a tough defense. We all know that, but I think they're still going to lean on a guy like Saquon Barkley. Okay, let's see what other questions we got coming in here. Why nobody wants Dez Bryant? I don't know if nobody wants him. I just think Dez wants too much. I think Dez Bryant wants too much, and as soon as Dez comes back, though, he could be a top 30 wide receiver for fantasy. Obviously, it depends where he goes. If he goes to the Bills, like, no, I'm good on that. But Dez is an interesting guy. Please keep sending in those questions. Please send them in. Rivers or Taylor, I would appreciate that. I'm going to go Rivers in that regard. And we got the graphics back up and running. Good job, Lena. We got John Jr., Morris or Penny. Ew. Okay, I guess I'm going to go Morris because he's the guy that's starting there. But again, John, I don't like either option. And if you're dealing with running backs like that, you should definitely follow me on Twitter at MitchellRenz365. And you should definitely play on FanDuel so you don't have to deal with those horrible options. All right, I need a sip. Shout out to Daddy Smokes Yams. I traded James White and Kerryon Johnson for Allen Robinson in a PPR league. Smart or dumb? If you have good running backs, I think it's smart. If you have weak running back depth, I think it's dumb. So Allen Robinson, we haven't really seen, guys. Like Allen Robinson, 2015 had a great year, 14 touchdowns. 2016 was pretty bad. 2017 had 1 catch for 17 yards towards ACL. He was on the field for, I believe, 11 plays this preseason, didn't see a single target. I don't really know what to expect from Robinson. Robinson's a guy that I do really like, especially when he came out of Penn State. But we haven't seen a lot from him. So in terms of, do I think it's smart or dumb? Have to wait and see. But again, if you have good running back depth, I think it was a smarter move. If you don't, though, I think it is probably a pretty dumb move. All right, guys, keep sending in those questions. OBJ or AJ Green? I'm going to go AJ Green this week. That one's from Colton Ross. The next question coming up here on the screen is from Justin. Is Big Ben a solid start versus Cleveland, you think, or Brady over Houston? I'm going to go Brady. I like Brady's matchup much better against Houston. They have the highest over-under according to BetDSI at 50.5, so I like Brady a lot in that matchup. I think they're going to put up a lot of points against Houston, who has a weak secondary. And Justin, Big Ben is my sit of the week this year, or sit of the week at quarterback, just because I don't like the matchup against the Browns because of the rain. The weather's going to be bad. Stay away from Big Ben. He had only 263 passing yards last year against the Browns. And defense, well, that's actually a little bit better this year. In the rain, it's going to impact it, and Big Ben's also not as good on the road. So, another question I'm looking down here is from Nate. Marshawn Lynch or the Rams or Bilal Powell versus the Lions. I'm going to go Marshawn. I don't really like Bilal Powell, and I don't think the Jets do either. So, I'm going to go with a guy like Marshawn against the Rams, even though, again, Marshawn's a guy that I'm not overly crazy about. Nate. Next question's coming in is from Jason. How should I view T.Y. Hilton this week? Trust him and luck, or should I start Allen Robinson against the Packers? I'm going to go T.Y. I'm going to trust him because with a guy like Andrew Luck, when he's played, he's been quarterback 2 and quarterback 4. Last time he's played full 16-game season. I like T.Y. T.Y. led the NFL in receiving yards in 2016, 14,000 yards, or 1,400 yards there. So T.Y. And guys, one more question here. This is coming in from Noah Phelps. This is going to be my last one. Start Russell Wilson or Jared Goff? It's a great question. I'm actually still going to go with a guy like Russell Wilson against the Broncos, and I understand it's a tough matchup, but I think Jared Goff, they're going to lean on the run a lot in that game. It's tough. It's really coin flip for me, but I'm still going to go with a guy like Russell Wilson. Fantasy Football fam, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to Fantasy Football AF. If I missed any of your questions, please keep submitting them. I'm going to get to them in the comment section below. And I'm going to be back next week answering all your questions. We're going to do week 2 start and sit 'em again. And good luck to everybody this week. And please let me know if you won on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. And I will see you all next week, and good luck.